Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about what seeds to plant in January. We're in a new year, we're excited to get going, and we want to start new seeds off, ready to start them growing to harvest later on in the garden, in the allotment, in your kitchen garden. So, we're going to be talking you through what seeds are the best to be planted in January. Now, I want to welcome you to this podcast if you're new to it. It's now going out on more platforms as well as on YouTube, so you can get me everywhere now. So, thanks for tuning in. It's always great to hear back from the people that are listening. If you want to follow me on Instagram or Facebook, check me out, Gardening with Ben, and my YouTube channel is also Gardening with Ben. And feel free to drop me a message or let me know what you're listening it on. And it's always good to hear back from the people listening. So today I've been out to the hardware stores and I've purchased my seeds for January to give me that kickstart. I've not got a heated greenhouse, so I'm going to be starting a lot of them off in my flat, which will be good. But at least I'll be able to keep my eye on them and make sure that they're growing. But yeah, if you've not got a heated greenhouse, you'll need somewhere light and warm to start the seeds off, as the seeds won't start unless it's warm, and obviously they'll need the light to grow. So we're going to be talking you through what are the best vegetable seeds, fruit plants, and flowers to sow this month. So grab yourself a brew, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode. So now that we're in a new year, like I said, the hardware stores and the garden centres will start getting out all their seeds and plants ready for starting the new year. So first we're going to look at vegetables. What vegetables can we plant this month and get ready for growing? The first thing that always pops onto the shelves around now are the seed potatoes. Now, some people say you shouldn't grow normal potatoes, you should stick to the seed potatoes, what are in the shops, as they have not been sprayed by chemicals or genetically modified like they would do in the shops. So they are a healthy batch and they won't spread diseases in your garden and allotments. So I know my dad, he grew some from the shop and they did well as just from the supermarket. So it's up to you what you choose to plant, but I always stick to the seed potatoes, what you can buy from the garden centre or online. So if you're getting a bag of seed potatoes, what you need to do is you need to decide if you're going to chip them or not. Now, chip them means when you put them in a tray and leave them somewhere that is light and warm, not too cold, and you just face the eyes up in the tray and let them start sprouting, ready for planting out in March, April time. I always chip my potatoes. The best thing to use is an egg box because you can place the potatoes at a good distance and it holds them in place. And you place the potatoes in each egg container and leave them in a light area until April time, ready to plant them out. Another thing that you can start now, what you'll start to see in the shops, are onion seeds. Now, if you want to grow some massive onions, what you see like in exhibitions and stuff like that, now is the time to be starting them off. Obviously, you need to start them off somewhere warm in a heated greenhouse or in the house, as they won't germinate. But now is the time to start sowing those onion seeds. Now, if you don't want to grow them from seed, you can grow them from sets, and that means they've already been started and they're like a tiny little onion. But you can plant them out straight into the ground in March, April. Or what I sometimes do is I start them off, these little sets, in trays of compost, just place them on top so that the shoots start growing and they start forming the roots. This also starts them off, as if you plant them straight out into the ground first, the onions, sometimes the pigeons will come and eat the tops off the onions, so you've got to protect them with the netting. So now is the time to be starting the onion seeds. The other thing that you can start now is broad beans. Now, these can be started straight in the ground, but obviously it's frozen at this time of year and cold, so it's not easy to get them in. But if you are starting them ones now in the ground, these need to be hardy ones that will grow in the ground. And often packets will tell you if they can be planted in January time, so look out for them. Another way to start broad beans off is in pots of soil compost. um, this probably is a better way because the mice won't come along and eat the seeds. And also you'll know which ones germinate, and then you can plant them out at the equal spacing. But obviously, like again, you'll need to plant them in a warm place to start your broad beans off. And lastly, for the vegetable side of it, is celery. Celery takes a long time to grow, and it needs as long as possible to start growing. So if you're a fan of celery, I'm not, so I've never grown celery myself, so I don't know much about celery. But now is the time to be starting those seeds off. Again, you'll need to start them off somewhere warm so that they will grow and germinate. Now let's look at fruit. What fruit can be planted in January? Now, January is a perfect time to be planting bare-rooted fruit trees, and you'll often see these in garden centres. The reason why we plant them now is because the ground is wet and it rains a lot, and the trees can take in all the water and take root. You won't be picking any fruit for the first year or two, but now is the perfect time to be planting those trees. If the ground is rock solid, make sure you leave them somewhere where they can get some water until you do plant them. And in the first year, you need to make sure that you do give them a lot of water to help them take root. So keep them watered and look after them in the first year. Now, the next one I have tried myself, and I'm going to try it again this year, as I'm going to film it for my followers to show you just how easy it is to grow. And this one is rhubarb from seed. Now, you can buy rhubarb crowns, which you'll often see for a couple of pound for a rhubarb crown. But why not try growing rhubarbs from seed? I've done this and I've had great success. You won't be picking it for about 2 to 3 years, but I've had great success from this. And in a packet of seeds, you'll get probably about 20 to 50 seeds, so for a couple of pounds, so it's cheaper than buying the rhubarb crown. Obviously, the rhubarb crown, if you do plant that, you can't pick it in its first year, you've got to let it settle, but then you will be picking it from the second year. So it's up to you which one you decide to go for, but if you're wanting to grow rhubarb from seed, you can start that now. Again, it needs to be somewhere warm and somewhere light for the seeds to germinate. Lastly is raspberries. Now is the time you can be planting your raspberry canes. Now, if you're growing raspberries, you've got to bear in mind they can be as worse as wheat. The reason for this is that you can plant them all in a line, which I did, but towards the end of the year, they send out all the roots and they send out little shoots everywhere, and they can even go through the gaps of concrete and everything. So if you're growing them in a line and they start sending the shoots out at the end of the year, you can dig up the ones that they've sent the shoots out for and just realign them. That's what I've done. And down the side of my plot, I'm making like a raspberry hedge. So as I get my new shoots, I replant them and put them into this hedge. And it's looking fantastic. And the amount of raspberries that I had this year were unbelievable, and they're so tasty. Now, if you're choosing what variety you want to grow, I would recommend the autumn variety of raspberries, as they seem to produce more of a crop than the summer variety. These are a later cropping than the summer variety. And with autumn ones, when you're pruning them, you can prune them straight down to the bottom of the ground each year. Whereas the summer ones, you prune back the ones that have fruited this year. You don't prune back the new shoots, as they are the ones that get the fruit on. And lastly, let's look at what flowers can be planted this month. Now, flowers were the first time what I grew last year. I've not grown flowers before, and I thought I need to attract more bees to my plot so that I get better pollination on my flowers from my blossom on my fruit trees, and without the bees you won't get any produce. So you need to grow flowers to attract the bees to get them to pollinate your fruit trees and fruit bushes. So one of the things that I grew last year was sweet peas. Now, a little tip for starting sweet peas off, what I did is I put a piece of kitchen roll in the bottom of a container, damped it with some water, dampened it, and I placed the sweet peas on the kitchen roll, and then I just put a layer of cling film over the top of the container to keep it warm and to keep it moist. And then you can see which sweet peas germinate, and you can then, once they start to germinate, get some tweezers or something that you can pick the sweet peas up gently without damaging the shoots, and you can pot them up into seed pots, and at least you know which ones have germinated and which ones you can pot up. And then once they're big enough, in April, May time, you can plant them outside when it's warm enough. So that's my little tip for starting sweet peas off. So the other two, what you can start this month, are snapdragons and lobelia. Now, lobelia is a fantastic flower to grow. It just spreads everywhere and it covers a nice area up, and the flowers on it are absolutely gorgeous. So these can be started this month. Again, you need to plant them somewhere where it's warm so that the seeds germinate. And the last one is snapdragons. Now, these are a beautiful flower, and the amount of flowers you get on a snapdragon are glorious, and they're more of the cottage garden type flowers and rockery type flowers. Now, I've not grown these before, but I've just bought a packet of seeds of them today, so I'm going to start some of them off, so I'll record it and show you how they get on, as I'm wanting to try lots of new stuff this year. That is my plan, to try lots of different stuff and keep track of how things get on and how it grows. So I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast on what seeds to plant in January. Remember to click that subscribe button, and feel free to check out my website as well. I've popped the link below in the description. That is where I have my merchandise, and I've shared tips and advice on there as well. And like I said, if you're not following me on Instagram and Facebook, feel free to follow me. Gardening with Ben, I'm sharing tips, videos all the time down on the allotment. So thanks for listening, everybody. And as always, remember, keep gardening.